know where the treats at.
Is this the passing of the torch, right? Is this what this signifies?
It comes down to that front office and what they feel is most important.
The champ is here. We've touched down from a higher plane. Why you made it here?
We always look forward to that week because it was always intense.
You know that we ain't coming back. We about to.
The man, the myth, the legend, Dante Hall. My favorite player growing up was Dante Hall. I love you guys in the show, but Dante was my guy.
Get to dashing because you done on the warfare.
This episode of Chief Concerns is brought to you by betonline.ag. Hey there, Marcus Dash here from Chief Concerns. Just want to comment and say BetOnline is your #1 source for all your sports betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for football, baseball, boxing, golf, and much more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Monday Morning Tight End. I'm Marcus Dash here with my brother Teja Dash. Jason Dunn, former Chiefs tight end, may be hopping on in a little bit, but for right now, it's just going to be us two previewing the Super Bowl. Our Chiefs, of course, back in it again. A rematch from Super Bowl 54, Chiefs 49ers, which obviously everyone's been talking about that for ad nauseum for 2 weeks now. I just want to fast forward to Sunday, just get this over with.
Yeah.
But so we're going to kind of dive right in here with a topic that very interesting because, we on our Chief Concerns show last week, we had Steve Bono, who's one of many quarterbacks who's played for the Chiefs and 49ers. Not many, but like five of them. But it's Blaine Gabbert's one of them. Joe Montana, obviously, Steve Bono, Steve DeBerg, and Elvis Grbac, and then Alex Smith. So Alex Smith went on the Adam Schefter podcast and talked about the matchup between the two teams. Some are calling it the Alex Smith Super Bowl. But yeah, Alex Smith went on Adam Schefter's podcast last week and had some interesting words to say about it. And it's kind of taken a lot of people by surprise as what he had to say about the Super Bowl. So we're going to dive in. We're going to go to the full screen here. So Alex Smith said on Adam Schefter's podcast, having watched this Niners defense, I think they are in trouble. You got to play man and you got to come after Mahomes. I still think he's phenomenal against pressure, but you got to man up and come after him. If you sit back in zone, he's going to dice you up, and that's all the Niners play. They predominantly play zone. The only chance the Niners have to win is a little bit of a shootout, but this Chiefs defense continues to elevate their game. They play such great team defense. I think Patrick is going to have a day. So, Teja, do you agree with Alex Smith here that the 49ers are in trouble?
It's a big statement. I don't totally agree with this statement. So the main reason it's I don't attribute this to how the Niners defense has played lately. For me, it's more about how much talent they have on defense. We have to kind of balance that out, right? Because if we completely judged a team on their next game based on their recent play, then the Chiefs probably would have been bounced out of the playoffs early based on how bad our offense had been lately. So you can't just always say, oh, well, they've done this the last 5 games. They're done. They're out. That's how teams underestimated us, and that's how we've been a underdog for the entire playoffs so far. So except for Miami. You can't do that. And especially now, if a team got here, I don't care if it was, if there was a tournament of the entire NFL and the bottom team and the friggin' Bears got here, or not Bears because they had that pick, but Carolina got here, I would underestimate them anymore. So anyone that's here at this point deserves to be here, and they earned it. And I don't think we should be overlooking them based on recent play. Talented teams can pull out of it. And we've shown that ourselves. We look no further than the mirror, right? So would I be shocked if the Niners defense and played closer to the talent they're capable of? No, not at all.
Yeah, I find it funny because, for many years, and look at the last Super Bowl, it was kind of like a different thing altogether. Whereas the narrative that people are saying about the Niners now is what was being said about us back 4 years ago. And what they were saying about the Chiefs now is what they were saying about the 49ers 4 years ago. But their defense being so great and our offense not being able to, be able to put up points against their defense.
Yeah.
It's funny now the whole thing is completely changed. And I think it's funny that just in a few years' time, that whole thing has changed. But yeah, I will say this to one thing with the Niners is that they played against the Packers, who don't really have that good of a defense. I mean, they fired Joe Barry after the season for a reason. Overall, this whole season, Packers defense was pretty trash. They held 49ers in check that entire game. They only had them 24 points that game, I believe. They had forced Purdy into a few turnovers that game. Purdy had 250 yards, 1 touchdown. But they hadn't played down to their level. Lions, on the other hand, they were stopping them pretty good in that first half of that game. Second half, that's the thing with the Chiefs. Second half is when we come alive. We don't allow anyone to score any points in the second half. But the fact that, if that's what they're going to banking on, that's not going to happen against Kansas City as far as proving a team who's really stopped stuff in the second half of games. So, you're playing a different type of team here that they haven't really faced. And if you just look at how they got into the playoffs in the last few weeks, they looked like this world-beating team. And then second half of the season, once Christmas Day came, that was when it was like, okay, this Niners, they aren't the world beaters. They got dominated by the Ravens at home Sunday night or at Christmas Day night. And ever since then, we was like, okay, this team is not the world beater that everyone thought. But yeah, at the same time, everyone thought the Baltimore was world beaters when they beat San Francisco. And then look what happened last week against Kansas City. What were you going to say?
I was going to look at the Raven game. That did not go to script at all. So that was almost the opposite of what people were expecting. So, the weird things happened this late. They could also win other than a shootout, like he said, if both defenses just show up and shut down both offenses. So if the total points for both teams is like under 30 in like the early fourth quarter, that's a win for them. I would be happy if I were them. If CMC has a really good day, if Purdy doesn't make mistakes, they just move the chains, eat up clock, long drives. And their defense slows us down the way the Ravens did in the second half, then that's huge for them.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that. So I was looking at some numbers here, did some deep dive, and San Fran hasn't won a game scoring under 24 points this year. Chiefs have won an NFL best 6 games when scoring under 24 points. But on the other hand, this kind of bodes well with if a game is kind of a slugfest, this under 24 points game, that bodes well for us. On the other hand, San Francisco is undefeated when scoring over 24 points this year. So that whole narrative of it being a shootout, that definitely bodes well in their favor. And also another thing too is just kind of talking about the historical aspect of it. I kind of mentioned 4 years ago, we have a narrative about us that San Francisco has right now. But 49ers are allowing 26 points per game this postseason. If they win, allowing 24 points plus in the Super Bowl, it would top Kansas City's Super Bowl runs in 2019 and 2022 for most points allowed per game ever in a playoffs by a Super Bowl champion. Wow. So it's interesting that San Francisco team, that world-beating defense that we knew 4 years ago, it's not the same. But in that same regard, though, talking about this shootout, yes, we played better defenses overall. We played even Miami had at certain points this year had been playing well. Yes, they were injury depleted when we played them. But Buffalo, solid defense all year long. Baltimore, solid defense all year. 2 teams that second half of the season had probably top 10 defenses in the league. But to that whole narrative of shootouts and kind of playing this slugfest of a game, of all the pass rushers that we've played, Bosa, and you could say Chase Young, but Chase Young's been actually kind of a disappointment for them since they've traded for him. But Bosa, of all the teams we've played, that would be the best pass rusher we've played against. So that's a big test for our offense. And then them kind of trying to neutralize our offense. But I think the whole point is going to be our defense versus their offense. That's going to be the main where the game's going to be won, I believe.
Yep. Overall pass rush, Baltimore, best pass rusher, Bosa.
Yes. Yeah. They just had a collection of guys who did a lot of things on that defense. Yeah, I thought it was interesting though for the fact that Alex Smith says they're in trouble and then we could dice them up. That's interesting because then he also at the same point says the only chance it could be if it's a shootout, but also the same point Alex Smith saying Mahomes is going to dice them up because they predominantly play zone and Mahomes tears up zone. So that's the only chance they can have it if it's a shootout. But if we're blowing him out, Mahomes is on his A game. I mean, what Alex Smith suggesting here is we're going to get a little vintage 2019 Patrick Mahomes, and that's not what we've seen all year long. We've seen a more of a conservative style approach, and Alex Smith kind of like game plan for Patrick Mahomes in the Chiefs offense. But now he's saying that, then like, okay, well, if we're scoring 30 points, then doesn't that, I mean, I guess he's saying that he doesn't think that their offense can score 30 points against their defense. So that's what it sounds like to me.
If I were, I mean, look, if you look at both games they played in the playoffs, if we were up 24-7 the way Detroit was in the first half, I'd feel ridiculously confident in that. If we were up going into the fourth quarter, 21-14, even the way the Green Bay was, I would also feel extremely comfortable in that. Being up going into the fourth quarter means that they have to score, tie, or take a slight lead, and we get the ball back. As long as that's the case, I'll feel extremely confident in that game. I think a lot of this game, it's interesting. I think our offense is going to have so much weight on them in the first half, and then our defense is going to have so much weight on them in the second half.
That's generally how it's been. I mean, if you look at the way that Baltimore game went, offense first drive we came out, and once we took that lead, it was okay. Let's just kind of like do our thing. Defense will handle the business in the second half, like they have been doing all season long. Which is, yeah. I mean, what they're doing right now is I think teams that have held their opponents under 28 points all games throughout the season. I think every team that's done that has been a Super Bowl champion. Like going back, forgot where the number comes from, but yeah, teams that have held every opponent under 28 points have won. All 20 of our opponents have been held under 28 points this year. So that just shows how historic our defense is, and teams that do that, that's the Super Bowl champion team. So. Yeah. So speaking about kind of talking about our offensive approach in this game. So Alex kind of talks about that a little bit. The question is essentially, if we get out to an early lead, do you think it'll be cruise control similar to what we saw in that Ravens game second half where we didn't do really anything? I think it was the fifth time in NFL history that a team won without scoring points in the second half of a playoff game. So my question is, if we get out to an early lead, do you think it'll be a cruise control action? Or do you think it's going to be shootout time for Patrick to kind of flex his muscle on a big stage? What Alex Smith was saying, that he's going to dice up this Niners defense.
I think we do, and we'll do what we have to do, right? So it's not like I think we went into cruise control in the Ravens. I just don't think we changed a lot because we didn't have to. So it was what we were doing was so successful in the first half. They weren't guarding the screen game. They weren't guarding the short game, the behind the line of scrimmage passes, and the run game for the most part. They adjusted really well in the second half. They took away the short passes, behind the line of scrimmage passes, took away the screen game, really clamped down on the run game. They have the ability to do that. They're an amazing defense, right? I just don't think everyone in the league can't just turn that on and flip that switch unless you have the players to do that. And, if you're playing that well. The Ravens were and have been. I just think overall, if we have to come out and engage, like you saw in a drive where we had to come out and do more, the last drive of the game, pretty much to seal it, we did more, right? I think when being asked to step it up a notch, we will. I mean, would I prefer for us to keep scoring in the second half? Yeah, obviously that'd be wonderful. But for whatever reason, they adjusted and we didn't readjust to their adjustment. But yeah, like I said a minute ago, I really do think we just have a knack this season of calling a really good first half, not as good second half, whether it's not adjusting to other teams' adjustments or what. But so first half, second half scoring, including playoffs, we scored 296 points in the first half, 155 in the second half. So that's almost double in the first half. That is crazy. So I'm going to be freaking out if we don't perform well offensively in the first half. Now, like I said earlier, can trends buck and change in such big games like this when especially you're dealing with legends like Mahomes? Yeah, sure. I don't think it's one of those that we're done if we don't score a lot in the first half. But based on this entire season and the playoffs in general, playoffs was the same thing. I was like, I was doing this. I was like, I split up regular season playoffs. So I was probably better. I was like, no, it wasn't better. It's 46-24 in the playoffs, first half, second half. Still almost double. So like we had that rate consistently from the playoffs and regular season. So I just think it's incredibly important we come out and perform really well in the first half offensively. I think everyone's a creature of habit, right? Like the defense is used to being up going into the second half at this point. They're used to having a lead to kind of, play with. We need to give them that. If we have to adjust and come out harder in the second half, I mean, we can do that. We did it against the Niners last time. We were down late in the game and then in the Super Bowl. So, different team and whatever, but it's the same principle, right? The same head coach. It's the same offensive leader in Mahomes and the same receiving threat in Kelsey. So, I don't think it's going to be a cruise control situation, but I am going to be worried if it's even a tie game at halftime.
Well, I will say this, though, because, we talk about, for example, the Baltimore game, for example. We led 17-7 at halftime. Obviously, we were all happy with that.
Yeah.
But the second half is where, like, if that is the case, because Baltimore's offense was great this year, but it was a ground attack team. You ain't going to come back from many leads when it's a ground attack. The thing with San Francisco is they have so many weapons on the perimeter and in the back. They have weapons all over the field, whereas Baltimore, Zay Flowers is good. Likely is good. Mark Andrews is solid. But, like, that's not a team like, oh, that's a high-power attack. No, Deebo, George Kittle, Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, CMC, Eli Mitchell. They have so many guys who can do their thing. That's why the whole conversation of, is it Purdy or is the players around him? Yeah, well, the players around him are damn good. So that's a team that if you are up 17-7 and you do have a second half, and listen to the second half. And you're right. We made a great play at the end with throwing that bomb to MVS, to get the first down, and we had to do it. But before that, 3 plays, 7 yards, punt. 8 plays, 23 yards, punt.
Yeah.
3 plays, 4 yards, punt. 7 plays, 32 yards, punt. 3 plays, 7 yards, punt. We gave them opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to come back. Yes, our defense has played amazing and didn't allow that, and that's been a trend all season long where we didn't allow anything in the second half. But to do this against a team that has Deebo Samuel, has George Kittle, has Ayuk on the other end, and has CMC on the other end, that's scary. And that's not something I'm going to be, I'm not going to be like where I was in this game against Baltimore, a team that runs the ball a lot. But yeah, sure, you're going to come back with you're running 200 yards against us in the second half of the game, sure. But like with the passing attack that these guys have, this is a different animal as far as I'm concerned. But 17, let's not forget this. I think it was 17-13 Buffalo. We're down at halftime. We came back and won that game. So I think the second half points probably more so came in that game than it did in any other game because it wasn't from Baltimore.
Well, no, 0 in Baltimore.
Yeah.
But I give the Niners credit. They didn't come out of their game like their game plan the way the Ravens did, and kind of early deficit. Oh my gosh! Go Lamar, throw the ball, do something you haven't done for the majority of the year, which is only win with your arm. Niners, I remember watching that game. They came out like running in the second half. They kept feeding McCaffrey, doing the short game. They weren't like, all right, Purdy, time to air it out and throw bombs and like eat up this lead quickly or take this lead away quickly. They stuck with it. That I feel like teams tend to bail on that against us, even though we're not the offensive juggernaut we used to be. I'll be happy to see them try to do that with Purdy and get out of there. Because like you said, they're best when he gets rid of the ball and they get in their hands of their playmakers. Mainly lately, Deebo, McCaffrey. I think it's going to run through them. I think they're going to give McCaffrey 18 to 22 carries. And I think Deebo is going to have 6 to 9 touches within the line of scrimmage area just to get the ball in his hands. Our strengths on defense, though, we're very good in the short game. We're very good all over, but we're very good tacklers, sure tacklers. We surround the ball. I mean, that's why Tyreek Hill couldn't do anything against us because they were trying to do a little dink and dunk crap with him by the line of scrimmage and hoping he could just shake people loose. They threw that ball to him. We were on it so fast. We were all over it. We were all over the Ravens short game. we've been all over that. We've been very good at those little short dump off passes that teams do. So their offense is playing right into our defensive strengths in my mind. If they switched it up, it's been completely different. I don't think they're going to do that, honestly. I really don't. Their strengths are their strengths. And I think if they just go completely different against us, it would look terrible. Now, if it starts failing, maybe they will, but we could have easily said that against Detroit. But I just think when you're down in the first half against Detroit, as opposed to being down in the first half against Kansas City, I just think it's a totally different outlook for a team. I don't think they're going to see that the same way. There's much more than the 2023-24 Chiefs when you look at the Chiefs. When a guy like Shanahan looks like being down to the Chiefs, he doesn't see being down to this team. He sees being down to the last 6 years. He sees being down to the last time he saw us. He sees so much more than what's in front of him. I just think it's interesting. I think it'll be fun to watch that go down.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. The one thing about Andy Reid and talking about the halves, his first half game plans of games are phenomenal, especially in the playoffs. What we saw in that Baltimore game to come out right away, the whole thing was so scripted, so perfectly. I'm saying scripted, but the whole thing was so mapped out so perfectly. You come out, you defer to second half, you go out there, our defense stops them 3 and out. We get the ball, and we have that amazing drive down the field, which is there was none of that gimmicky crazy stuff, guys doing motion and stuff and having it Mahomes at the tailback. There was none of that. It was literally go downfield, Pacheco, Kelsey, Rice, repeat. Kelsey, Pacheco, Rice, repeat, all the way down the field, score a touchdown.
Yeah.
And that was so beautiful. And that was vintage Andy Reid. And it was are we gonna put up a lot of points against them? Because I think at the time, the over-under of that game, the line went total points went up big time. We score. I think they come down and they score that bomb to Zay Flowers. Okay, we got a ball game in our hands. The line went up to 55 points, over-under. It's okay. And what happened? There was no score pretty much after that, 17-10. But I was looking at to go back to the Super Bowl from the last time we played them. We had a masterful first drive or second drive of the game. Everyone always talks about that one drive where where Mahomes, that play that he took from Syracuse, from back in 1962, the motion play where Mahomes lined up in the backfield. They did little flip. First drive of that game, we forget, but that was a 3 and out. We had the ball first 3 and out right away, and then San Francisco goes down. They kick a field goal, and then they're up 3-0. And then that's when we have the masterful Andy Reid Cook drive where he comes down, 15 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. And that was the one where people forget. But generally, his first half of games, Andy Reid's game plans are phenomenal. I'm curious to see what it looks like all throughout his career in Kansas City, at least during the Mahomes era. First to second half difference, just kind of what you laid out for the season for us. But I think in that game specifically, we had to come back in that game. We were down late in that game, and we came back and won it. So if it gets to a situation where we are stalling second half of games and we are up, let's say we're up 10-7 at halftime, and we're stalling, I'm going to be very scared. I'm going to be quite honest, because this is an offense. Yes, we played the best of receivers this year. We played Josh Allen. We played Lamar Jackson. We played some of the best. We played some of the best quarterbacks. And I'm not saying Purdy's not great. And he's still new in this league. But with the weapons that he has around him, if we're stalling early second half of that game, I'm like, oh man, we can't come out here being kind of cruise control and letting it be just all on our defense.
Mm-hmm.
We got to do some. We got to mix up some of that MVS action that we had at the end of that Baltimore game. Let's sprinkle that in the second half. Let's not wait till the final drive of the game where we need some magic. And we need a bomb to a guy who we haven't been relying on all season. So I hope there is more of this. I hope there is no cruise control here. I hope we need to score. We need to get up points. And the fact that Alex Smith's saying that we can dice up this defense, that gives me hope. It's okay, well,
yeah.
If Alex Smith sees it, he knows our offense. He knows Nagy. He knows Reid. He knows Mahomes. And he knows what he's seen from that Niners defense. If he knows we can actually whip up some stuff against them, I hope Andy can do that. I hope we can game plan something good in the second half of this game.
Yeah. And if you look at what Detroit did well, because they moved the ball pretty easily, besides the running game, you look at their targets, 13 for Laporta, 11 for Amon-Ra St. Brown, 24 total between those two players. Well, who does that sound like? That sounds like Kelsey and Rice combining for 20 targets in the Ravens game?
Yep.
Or does that sound like Kelsey and Rice combining for 22 targets in the Dolphin game? The Bills game was weird. We didn't have anyone with more than 6 targets in that game. So, I mean, Mahomes only threw the ball 23 times. That was just a weird game.
Yep.
But in general, for this season, we've been seeing 20-plus targets from those 2 guys, and everyone else gets like 3 to 4. We pick our spots. So that worked well for them. They couldn't stop and zero in on those 2 guys. It's going to be tough, man. Like I saw someone on TV say yesterday, Kelsey's just route running is just so erratic. It's hard to game plan for someone that you don't know where he's going to go from left to right. It's not like he sits, he does this all the time. You don't know what he's going to do. And he's so great at adjusting at what he thinks you're going to do. So it's really hard to game plan against that. You have to just try something, see what he does to adjust to it, and really just adjust to that, which is why Kelsey's stats start to kind of slow down in the second half of even the games he's killing. Because I think teams after a while are like, okay, we've seen him do this like 2 or 3 times this game. Let's try this on him now. And they start to work after a while. Yeah, it takes a whole game, which is why that first half lead is so important.
Yeah, and we saw, and one thing we have seen, you talk about Kelsey and Rice kind of, dominating the targets. One thing we've seen the commitment in this pretty much since that Raiders Christmas Day game, one thing we've committed to is Pacheco, giving him carries. And was it 2 straight games of 20-plus carries for Pacheco in the playoffs, which is 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3, which on a 3-game span, I don't think you can find 2 out of 3 games much in his career where he had 20-plus carries. I think this is the most he's had in any 3-game span in his 2-year career. But that's one thing too, and that's one thing that Detroit was murdering the San Francisco defense was with Gibbs and Montgomery. That 1-2 attack. I mean, McKinnon may play, but that's not a regular factor in the running game. Pacheco is going to be a big key to that component of mixing in between Pacheco, Kelsey, and Rice. Those 3 guys get going. I mean, that is the Chiefs' offense right there. Yes, Mahomes, he can do what he wants to do as far as running the ball, getting out of the pocket, and escapability. But the Chiefs' offense is going to come down to those 3 guys: Kelsey, Pacheco, Rice, and that's what Chiefs fans want to see. They want to see those 3 guys touch the ball every drive. It's got to be every play. There's going to be one of those 3 guys doing something. Yeah, you may see an MVS catch here there. You may see a Justin Watson 12-yard catch, a Noah Gray 8-yard catch. But, I mean, just generally, those are 3 guys that are going to have to step up. And Pacheco, if he's getting 20 carries against this defense, he can have 120-plus yards against this run defense. This run defense is atrocious. And that's one thing Detroit kind of got away from that in the second half. Once Gibbs had that fumble in the second half of the game, it was like, oh, man, they kind of got starstruck, and that didn't really make much sense to me. But, yeah, they were moving at will, and, yeah, the combination of a healthy Rice and a healthy Kelsey, I'll take any day over a healthy LaPorta and a healthy Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Are you kidding me? These 3 games, Pacheco from the playoffs, you couldn't pick out any 3 games all season that would match the total output. He has 63 carries. I think the most he would have is 20 carries, 18 and 19. It's not even close. And that's just cherry picking the 3 best ones that we think are like the highest ones.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge. And when I look at Pacheco, because I used to get so hung up on Pacheco's yards per carry because they weren't always like mind blowing, and they weren't always.
It's not really sexy. No, it's 24 over 68. It's not sexy.
I don't care as much about the yards per carry as that I do about the consistent yards. As long as I said this a long time ago, one of our post games. I would rather a guy hit me for 4 yards every single time than have like a 15-yarder than a 2-yarder, a 12-yarder and a 3-yarder, a 12-yarder and a 1-yard. Give me 4 yards every time, because Mahomes on a 3rd and short, which is what you're going to give him if you do that, that's money in the bank every time. 3rd and short with us, we extend the drive. We do what we did against the Ravens, give them like 8-9 minute drives on them in the first half. They hardly touch the ball in the first half. Before they know it, they're kind of rushing to give more offense because they've been on the field for so little. And they haven't even really gotten a rhythm yet. How can you get in a rhythm if you're on the field for 12 minutes in the first half? You just can't, 10 minutes in the first half. So it's going to be really interesting because you're right. They've been gashed on the run, and we need to just get the consistent 3 to 5 yards every time.
Yeah. And quite frankly, you could do the whole cruise control bit. As long as you are, I mean, because some of these drives when I talk about the second half of that Ravens game, 3-7, 3-4, I mean, 3 plays, 3-4 yards. It's like, no. Because that's one thing they were doing. They were shutting down the run.
Yes.
This San Francisco team, and they were shutting down the run. This is why I think Pacheco's going to have such a big game next week. They were so good shutting down the run. He had 24 for 68. He was like 2.8 yards a carry or something like that. We still continue to go with the run. We still continue to do it. And this is a team that's been given up. I mean, they gave up Gibbs and Montgomery did whatever they wanted against them. You give Pacheco 24 carries against 20 plus against this defense that we're about to see. You can light them up, and you could go cruise control all you want the second half of the game, because that means we're going to be getting first downs and controlling the ball, controlling the clock that entire game against San Francisco. If we're going to run the ball as much as we did last week or 2 weeks ago against the San Francisco putrid run defense. So cruise control, as long as we're getting points, I really don't care. I mean, how we're doing it, how long it's taking. Just continue to get points. I don't want to see sputters of the second half what we saw against Baltimore, against a passing attack that they have on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, because you look at some of our third downs in that second half. You got 3rd and 3. We did not get. We should have gotten that one hurt coming out of the drive, the half. I mean, 3rd and 5. We got 3rd and 15. Did not get. 3rd and 6. Did not get. It's not sure. It's kind of intermediate. 3rd and 7. We got. 3rd and 13. Did not get. So 3rd and 8 did not get. So we had a lot of. And then the last drive we converted and kneeled the ball. We had a lot of 3rd and longs and 3rd and mids. So those need to be 3rd and 3 to 3rd and 5s every time. If we can't get those, so be it. We missed opportunities, but at least give yourself a chance to pick up 3rd and shorts.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the defense are about to play, and I think Alex, from a quarterback's point of view, is talking about he's looking at his QB Pat. That's his guy. And he's looking at it from a passing attack point of view. I just don't think if we are going to win this game, it's going to be on the back of, and I think the domination aspect's going to be a combination of what Pat's doing and what we're doing on the ground. And I think that on the ground game is going to be so big because, Pacheco can match you what David Montgomery's bringing you. Jared Goff's not matching what Patrick Mahomes is giving you. So that combination of what Pacheco's going to give us on the ground and what Pat can do, I think it's going to be it could be in a spot where the Niners are in trouble. But second half sputtering, I mean, it could. We sometimes we play into these games where it should be blowouts, but it may end up being a close game because of offense kind of doing nothing for a little bit there. So hopefully there's none of that this coming Sunday in Vegas.
I would actually love. I know we love doing this and getting the ball in the second half, but I would actually like to have it first. Take a long drive. Take like 6 to 9 minutes to score, basically give them the ball with the first quarter winding down. It puts all the pressure on them. Our defense is really good playing from up. And if we're up in the first half, who cares if they have the ball to start second half? Let them have the ball to start second half. Our defense is better in the second half anyway. So who cares if they have one extra possession to start out the second half?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's more reliant on our defense to step up like they have been doing all season for us, but they've carried the load for 20 games. May as well do one more time for us.
Yeah.
But all right, guys. Well, that does it for us. For all of you guys who are new to Chief Concerns, you can find myself and former Chiefs tight end Jason Dunn. Last week we had former Chiefs and Niners quarterback Steve Bono come on, but JD gives his analysis and stuff on everything relating to the Chiefs. We do that all year long, all season, during the season. But yeah, so we'll be back on our channel on YouTube, Chief Concerns, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. live stream, previewing this game coming up here. And then Friday, myself, Teja, my brother, and JD will be back on here 6:30 p.m. Friday. So get on here. We're gonna be talking about a lot of good things going for this Super Bowl coming up. But so that does it for us. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll see you guys on Wednesday night if you guys come to our channel.
All right, guys.
See you, everybody.
Later on.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.